everyone, it's Arlene Carter, Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in Reno, Nevada. And today I'm making a card using the To a Wild Rose stamp set, along with the dies that coordinate, aptly named the Wild Rose dies. So let me show you the paper that I'm using to make this card. I'm starting out with a piece of Whisper White, and let me just show you a little trick of how I use this card and cut it. So it starts out, the cardstock starts out at 8.5 by 11 inches. And what I actually do is with my paper trimmer, I'll turn it so the short side is up at the top, that is up next to the guide, and then I will score it first. So when I score it in one piece at 4 1/4 inches, and then I will turn it so that the long side is up, and then I cut it in half, and that gives me two pieces that are two halves of it, which they're actually ready to go because they've already been scored. So it just helps to, you don't have to put your card in again and run it through twice to make the score up in the middle. All right, so let me set one of those aside. One of these is for the card base. I also have a piece of the Balmy Blue cardstock. It's cut a little bit smaller than the front of the card. And again, for the dimensions, just go over to my blog, which I will have the link in the comment section below or in the description section. And then I also have a piece of the Flirty Flamingo. This is just a scrap piece of paper we'll be stamping and then die cutting out. I also have a smaller piece of the Pear Pizzazz, another scrap piece of paper, and then a piece of Whisper White, another scrap again. I also have a piece of the vellum, and this is 4 by 3 inches, and I will be putting that through an embossing folder. So let me show you what I'm going to do as far as the dies go. So with the dies, I'm going to take this, it's the label, it's got like a stitching on the inside of it, and what I'm going to be doing is cutting out that, using that to cut out right in the center of this Balmy Blue cardstock right here. So typically when we use this label, we will use, or I will use the inside of it, but for this card I'm actually going to be cutting out to make kind of like a window. So this part is important that you get it centered right in the middle of that Balmy Blue cardstock. I even have a piece of washi tape that I've put here. I'll probably use another piece just to run it when I run it through my die cutting machine, just to make sure that it stays centered on there. And then with the Pear Pizzazz, I will be using the little die cuts for the leaves. I'm going to be cutting out 2 of those, okay, in the Pear Pizzazz. And then in the Whisper White, you find that little scrap piece of paper here, I will be using the die cut that is kind of the outline image of the flower. So I'm cutting out just one of those, okay? And then I'm going to stamp on this piece of Flirty Flamingo first before I run it through. So let me get the 2 stamps that I'll be using. And these are the flower stamps, kind of a 2-step process here. You'll see that there is a more solid image, and then there is a color, or a flower that's got a little bit, it gives it depth. It doesn't have as much of a solid image as the first one does. So I actually will be using both of those and stamping in the Flirty Flamingo. And I'm going to see if I can, let me move my light a little bit. Maybe that will help. It looks a little dark here in the camera, so hopefully that will help. So let's go ahead and take those 2. I have 2 blocks, and I'm just going to be using those. I just wanted to show you also, if you can see, I've actually just taken a little, on one of the edges here, in black Sharpie marker so that I can see it easily. I've just marked it, and this is going to help me because these stamps sometimes are a little bit hard to line up when you're stamping and you're trying to figure out where's the bottom, where do they line up at. This just saves me some time. You can see here that I've marked in Sharpie on the bottom edge as well, because I know that those 2 will line up. And so what I like to do is actually, when I stamp, I've just gotten used to making sure that that part right there that I've used a black Sharpie is at the bottom. So that way when I go to stamp this image, I know that I can line it up if that image is toward the bottom. It's closest to me when I'm stamping. So I'm going to use the Flirty Flamingo And I'm just going to stamp again so that the part that I have used the Sharpie that I've marked is at the bottom. Okay, and then I'm going to take and ink up the other stamp again using the marked image, this Sharpie to guide. I'm going to stamp that. See if I can get that going okay on my camera there. Okay. And there is that beautiful image, and you can see it gives it a lot of depth just by using those two stamps. Okay. The next thing that I'm going to do is actually going to cut that out, and that's using the die that matches this image here, and just place it there. And I will be using, again, just a little piece of washi tape. I don't use washi tape as much as I think I would use it, so that means that I have a lot of washi tape left. And I just kind of like to remove some of the tackiness with my finger like that a few times, and then just tape over it. That way, because I've removed some of that tackiness, it's going to, it'll lift off easier on my cardstock. Okay, now that we have those, I'm going to take the vellum and actually run it through the embossing folder, which is called the Tasteful Textile 3D embossing folder. I have it here. It's going to place it in, and like this. It's going to give a really neat image. I'll show it to you once I run it through. All right, and then I'm going to get my die cutting machine and get all of this cut out and run through the embossing folder, and I will be right back. All right, now that we've got all of the cut out, you can see that I've got the flower that's been die cut out. This is from the Whisper White that I've cut out, as well as the two leaves in Pear Pizzazz. And that leaves this balmy blue here. And I'm just going to take out the middle part, the dies. Okay, so we're left with this. And also I have the piece that I've embossed, the vellum, and we've got this piece right here. So you can see that it's got that beautiful, just a nice little pattern going on. Okay, we're going to set that aside, and next thing that I want to do is I'm going to be adding some, I just want to show you something else that you can do with your dies. Sometimes we think that's typically what we use it for, is to cut out, but you can also use these as stencils, which is what I'm going to show you here today. Okay, I've got a little sponge dauber, and then I have some of the Flirty Flamingo ink, and what I want to do is just take the die cut that I've cut out of the Whisper White, and then just ink up on your Flirty Flamingo, and you're just going to I'm placing the cutout die cut of the flower just over the balmy blue, and then I'm just going to ink that up and start if you're in the corner, and then ink it up. And you see how the ink is also, because I'm using it as a stencil, it's also getting onto the stencil itself. Okay, and I will just go around again, just another one here. And each time that I have to replace or move around my stencil, I'm also going to move so that the part that's white is going to be, is what I have to sponge over. So I'm actually coloring over that Whisper White, and we're getting it to match the color of the Flirty Flamingo. So the ink is getting on there, okay? And you can see here, see it's like a stencil right here. And I'm just going to repeat that process up here on the top. Okay, so you can see what I've done here. I did the opposite ends that I've stenciled using my die cut, and then because I used it and I inked over, it also is giving me a part of it colored it in the color of the Flirty Flamingo as well. Okay, now that we have that, what I'm going to do is just center it over the top front of the card. That would get a good crease going on that top fold with the bone folder. if you want to. And then I'm going to place this over and just position it. So don't glue it yet. And I'm taking and using the inside cutout, the cutout as your guide. I'm just very lightly kind of going to go over and just give little, kind of little pencil marks very lightly on the edge here, because I'm going to be stamping and I want to make sure that I don't go past those pencil marks. And I'm going to lift them up, and you can see I'm very light. I'm doing it, I did a little bit more just so the camera would pick it up, but you can see. So next thing I'm going to do is stamp. And I have the word blessed that I'll be using, and with the black ink, just go ahead and ink that up and then stamp. And I'm going to be stamping on the left side, inside those pencil marks, but on the left side of where it's going to show. So you see that right there? So you want the whole word to show, but we're going to be decorating over here on the right side. So I had it go a little bit over more to the left. So I didn't quite center it for this particular card. All right, and the next thing that you'll want to do is take your vellum that you've run through the embossing folder, and with some adhesive, I'm going to just adhere this. Now, if you have not used the Stampin' Seal, the new Stampin' Seal, I think when you use it, you are going to be pleasantly very, I don't want to say surprised, you're going to be pleased with how it works. I really like it. I wasn't sure because I really like my ATG gun. You know, if you've been watching, you know that I do like that. But I went ahead and tried this. I purchased it, and I actually really like the way it's got some really good adhesion. It rolls out very well. So it's easy. I do like it. So far, so good. All right, so I just adhered that onto the back. And then the next thing I'm going to do is just add the rest. Add some more of some Stampin' Seal or your adhesive of your choice. I like to go around all four edges here. And then center that directly on top. But look at that, isn't that pretty? You can see it, but it gives it just kind of a real soft look because of the vellum, and then the texture is beautiful. All right, our next thing we get to do is kind of put this card together and finish it up. I'm taking some of the liquid glue, and I'm going to just glue down the leaves. Okay, I've got one here. And before I glue down the second leaf, I'd like to kind of play around a little bit just to make sure I know where that flower is going to sit, to make sure that the leaf does show through. And then add some glue here. And glue that down just so we have enough so it's showing through. There we go. Okay. And then I want to use some Stampin' Dimensionals. Take a few of those, and we're going to put them onto the stamped rows. Okay, and there again, you might kind of want to make sure that you position it so that the word blessed shows. Okay, like that. Take some liquid glue again and glue down the image or the die of the outline of the flower. So see how beautiful that is right there? It just goes so well. And all we did was color Whisper White with our ink using our sponge dauber. So you can do that with anything, but it was nice that we got to use it as a stencil too as well. I'm also going to take this little small blooms punch, and I'm going to punch out a flower with the Fleur de Flamingo. And then again, taking my sponge dauber, just gonna do a little bit of sponging right here on the side. That will just help it to actually match up with the ink a little bit better. Okay, I'm gonna curl those petals up just a little bit using my bone folder. Just a little, okay. And then with a glue dot, just take a little glue dot and add that and adhere it right there in the center of our flower. And these are the frosted epoxy, I think they're called droplets. Yeah, it got me wondering. What are they exactly? Yeah, they're frosted and clear epoxy droplets. I'm using one of the frosted only because I thought it would go the best with the vellum that I have for the window. So just applied that right in the middle there. Okay, and there you have a fun card, a little bit of a different technique with the stenciling and the sponging, and then embossed vellum to act as a kind of a frosted window on the front of your card. So thanks everyone for watching. Don't forget to check out my blog and for the dimensions and instructions for this, all of the products that I've used, that's on my blog. It's listed there, as well as on my Facebook page. We've got upcoming classes and Friday night lives, which are lots of fun, that I show extra things to as well. Thanks so much for watching and have a great day. Bye.